Hi guys, it's Megan from Foothills, and for National Poetry Month, I am going to share with you one of my favorite collections, Poetry Speaks, Who I Am, with contemporary as well as classic American poets, and even some Shakespeare. It's got a little bit of everything, and what's really unique about this book is that it comes with a CD of audio recordings for some of the poems, including really rare ones like Langston Hughes. That means it's a really fascinating opportunity to hear the words spoken by the person who wrote them, which gives a really interesting and a rich texture to the words as they're written. It can feel a lot less static, and, authorial intent is a complicated topic, interpretation versus intent, but there is something really powerful, for instance, hearing Langston Hughes read his own work across decades, and actually almost a century by now. With your indulgence, I'd actually like to read a few of my favorites. What Great Grief Has Made the Empress Mute. The title comes from a New York Times headline. This poem is by June Jordan. Because it was raining outside the palace. Because there was no rain in her vicinity. Because people kept asking her questions. Because nobody asked her anything. Because marriage robbed her of her mother. Because she lost her daughters to the same tradition. Because her son laughed when she opened her mouth. Because he never delighted in anything she said. Because romance carried the rose inside a fist. Because she hungered for the fragrance of the rose. Because the jewels of her life did not belong to her. Because the glow of gold and silk disguised her soul. Because nothing she could say could change the melted music of her space. Because the privilege of her misery was something she could not disgrace. Because no one could imagine reasons for her grief. Because her grief required no imagination. Because it was raining outside the palace. Because there was no rain in her vicinity. Dedicated to the Empress Michiko and to Janice Mirikitani. Here's one by Langston Hughes, one of my favorites. I loved my friend. I loved my friend. He went away from me. There's nothing more to say. The poem ends, soft as it began. I loved my friend. This one's a classic. I'm sure you'll reference some of these words. They've actually come up in a meme recently, which I find very compelling. This is Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley, who you might remember from my last story time, husband of Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, and talented in his own right. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked 'em and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. This is When I Have Fears That I May Cease to Be by John Keats. When I have fears that I may cease to be before my pen has gleaned my teeming brain, before high-piled books in carrick tree hold like rich garners the full ripened grain, when I behold upon the night's starred face huge cloudy symbols of a high romance, and think that I may never live to trace their shadows with the magic hand of chance, and when I feel, fair creature of an hour, that I shall never look upon thee more, never have relish in the fairy power of unreflecting love, then on the shore of the wide world I stand alone and think, till love and fame to nothingness do sink. And those are some selections from Poetry Speaks, Who I Am. It's a really great collection if you're new to poetry, or if you're not quite sure what style you prefer. there's a lot of different kinds of poetry. There's free verse, there's villanelle, there's prose, there's your standard couplets, a la Shakespeare and Dr. Seuss. And there's something out there for everybody. And now, for the other teen librarians specifically, I would like to offer this song/poem about Mothman. It's not National Poetry Moth, it's National Poetry Month, but my email fingers don't always know that. So, in the spirit of that typo and celebrating National Poetry Month, I hope you'll indulge me in Mr. Mothman. This is to the tune of Mr. Sandman. Mr. Mothman, moth me a man. Give him the cutest 25-foot wingspan. Give him red eyes and fuzzy antenna. The best-known cryptid out of West Virginia. Thank you. This has been my ode to Mothman. Thanks for joining us for National Poetry Month, and we'll see you soon. Bye.